Hey everybody, welcome back to Angelo's Workbench. Don't forget to check me out on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, all under Angelo's Workbench.
Hey everybody, it's Angelo with Angelo's Workbench, here with my next project, another fully 3D printed kit. So, this time, and it's again from that same guy, Andre, who did the Mustang Dark Horse, the 2024 Mustang Dark Horse that was so beautifully done. This is a 1972 Ford Maverick grabber. And this is just the way it was printed. I've scribed the panel lines a little, but I have a lot of sanding to do. I've discovered that putting supports on the side help keep the body nice and straight, and they just sand right off very easily anyway. So I will be doing the body work on this, getting it all nice and ready for paint. I think I'm going to do it orange, bright orange with some black stripes. I think it's going to be awesome with that black tail panel recessed in like the grabbers had. And then you'll see here are the parts. We have the hood. Now this one has an option. Most of these kits are in fact curbside. This one had an option to print it without the hood and do the hood separately. And then it also has a, besides having a full chassis, right? It has the option to have an engine bay. So you can have the engine bay here, and then put the hood, in, and it'll all be beautiful and easy, and it'll look good. To have a detailed engine compartment, and I'll see if I can go through my spare parts. Maybe come up with some master cylinders, or maybe I can 3D print some. Who knows? But then here's that beautiful grabber hood, which fits so nicely. The resin 3D printed stuff just works so well. And Andre's files, they're available on Colts 3D or several other places on the internet. Andre's files are just marvelous. They're just so easy to work with. So then we have the full chassis. And I like how his chassis mates up on this one. I'm just going to drop it all over the place. It goes in, and then you'll see there's screw holes combined. You can actually like put a couple of screws in and have this mounted to very nicely. And this obviously would, I put this on wrong. This would obviously need to be tucked in. And then you see where there's a screw hole in the body to go into the chassis. And then basically everything is just, fits together. So it fits together so nicely. It's just perfect. So then part of the kit, he had, again, interior options. And I chose to print the tub, which I will paint in detail. The back seat was separate, as is this beautiful front bench seat that'll go in there. And then here is the back seat. One of these is the back seat. I think that's the back seat. And then this is the front seat because it has the headrests. And so those will get painted and those will get installed and be wonderful. Then we have the front grille here, which came out very nicely. And I have a rear end, of course. And we have some bumpers to be done in chrome or body color, maybe. I haven't decided. Or maybe even black. I haven't decided yet. The dashboard, which looks very well, very nice. The wheels and tires. So the tires, again, I will just airbrush them flat black, and they'll be fine. And the wheels are very nice. They have to be cleaned up a little before they'll fit in there easily. But once I clean them up a little, they'll fit. And these are very nice. And I'll do these, silver with the black centers. Those will look great. And then there's a whole bunch of little parts that go with the kit. The steering wheel, the tail lights, the side view mirrors. There are lots of little parts. The actual headlights. Most of them are lights in here. And the side view mirrors, which look beautiful. So there's those. And nothing needs to be de-sprued. Everything is printed and wonderful. So then I went online and I said, well, what am I going to put in here for a motor? And I will have to modify this engine bay because obviously you can see that, it just barely fits. If it goes in from the top, I think I'm okay. But it's not going to fit in from the bottom, that's for sure. This motor is a Coyote motor. a Ford Coyote big block. The motor itself is 28 pieces. Here's the print list. 28-piece Coyote motor that I downloaded from someone on the internet on Cults 3D. And you can see here's the block. Here's the oil pan. I've got the heads. I've got the valve covers that say powered by Ford engraved in, which is really cool. And then the intake manifold. I've got all kinds of parts, exhaust headers. So this is going to be a little fabricating involved here. But then I have the Coyote transmission, which is also several parts on its own. There's the bell housing. There's the transmission. Comes with 2 of these with different spacings for the shifter, depending on which one you want. And it comes with a flywheel. There's a little flywheel. How cool is that? You'll never see it, but I'm going to paint it and put it in there because I'm going to know it's there. And I think the motor also included a flywheel. There's the flywheel that was included with the motor. It doesn't look quite as good. I'll use the one that came with the transmission. That one printed a little funkily. But then, like, each of the pulleys are individual pieces for the motor. And then for a belt, I'll just make a belt out of tape. But you'll see these are all the pulleys that go with it. It's so cool. The intake manifold has a little butterfly valve inside it. Here's a starter. There's so many cool parts. I'm trying to find that intake manifold. Oh, there it is. I see it. I see it. There's the intake manifold. And then let me see if I can zoom you in. Whoop. Look at the butterfly inside the intake manifold. Tell me that is not the coolest thing ever. 3D printed parts are so awesome. So I've got the 28-piece Coyote motor to put together and install in this fantastic Maverick. So that's a look at the parts, a look at my plans and what I'm going to do, and let's get to work.
In this video series, I'm going to leave the airbrush footage raw, and I'm not going to speed it up so that you can see the exact speed that I'm painting, how fast my hand is moving, how much paint I'm putting on. I get a lot of questions about how I spray, how I get the finishes. Later in the video, we're going to be doing the body in the grabber orange, or the bright orange on the Ford Maverick grabber, and you'll be able to see me apply the color coat as I'm applying the layers in real time, not sped up. So I hope that you enjoy. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, send me questions. I love to hear from you guys. And also visit me on my other platforms, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, all under Angelo's Workbench. Okay, so I've run into some issues with the Coyote V8 fitting in here. Primarily, I think it revolves around this chassis. I don't think that this just isn't big enough. I'll tell you right off the bat. This is not big enough to take the transmission. The transmission is massive. I've measured up the motor and the transmission, and the motor and the transmission are to scale. I've measured up the car. The car is to scale. Everything is correct on the scale. So what I've come to the conclusion of is it just doesn't fit. So what I've done is I've bagged up the Coyote V8, and I will use it on another project. So this Maverick is going to be a curbside endeavor, and I'm most of the way through the body work. I had a couple little spots from the 3D printing that needed to be taken care of, and I've got to redo this panel line here, and just I've been doing a lot of sanding on this fender to get it kind of smooth, and this line had gone away during some of my sanding sessions, so I'm restoring that. And so this is going to get primered, painted, and as is the interior. The car is still beautifully done. Just because I can't fit the motor in, that's okay. I'll just build it as a curbside. I mean, I think this was intended to be a curbside anyway. In hindsight, what I could do maybe is do a chassis swap. If I was going to go all out. But I've got a long list of projects that I want to get to, and I want to finish this 72 Maverick. So we're going to move forward, and we're going to curbside it and go forward from there. Still beautiful car. Going to be awesome looking. I've got the tires here. They're ready for white letters. I'm going to put some white letters on them. I've got the wheels here. I've shot them with some Alclad. Got to do the black centers. And then they will look the part and be beautiful, and are going to look great on this car. So let's get to work. Mixing up some paint for the 1972 Ford Maverick Grabber, and we're going with outrageous orange. Sounds good to me. I picked this up in Walmart, I think, for like 54 cents or 78 cents. I think it was under $1. I didn't think you could get anything for under $1 anymore. But we just have a hood and a body to paint, so I'm not going to need that much of it. A little tiny bit of my 75-cent investment, or whatever it was. It certainly wasn't much. I love these paints. These paints, they spray out fine. I mix them with various thinners, water, distilled water, whatever, and they work out great. And they mix up nice. They spray nice. That Camaro I did was a yellow color that I got from one of those inexpensive acrylic craft paints. The trick is getting the consistency right. So I mix it until it drips off of the stir stick easily, but not too easily. you know, they say that, you know, the milk consistency, which is a good way of doing it. Or you can drag a little paint up on the side of the cup and just see it run down. If it runs down well but still leaves a little bit of color on the side of the cup, then you know you've got a winner. And we're closing in on it here. We're getting close. And I'm just mixing. If you get your consistency of your paint correct, it's 99% of the problems people have with airbrushing, I think. As long as your airbrush is set up correctly. The equipment has to be set up correctly. See, that's perfect. It runs off. I got a drip. And then I run it up the side. It runs back down, but leaves a little paint on the wall. That's exactly what we want. Then every time I thin my paint, I like to let it sit for 5 or 10 minutes. It's good to let the thinner and the paint acclimate together. Createx gave me that idea, because when you mix up their stuff, they say, hey, listen, you need to let this sit for 10 minutes. Let the chemicals, bond together, or do whatever they do. Chemicaling. Let the chemicals chemical. And so I like just letting it sit for 10 minutes. Give it another stir. And then put it in the airbrush and spray it. And then when it's in the airbrush and you're spraying it, you can tell a paint that's too thick because it'll spit out of the airbrush, and the airbrush will make this like, sound like it's spitting. And then if it's too watery, obviously when you put it on, it just goes and runs down. So those are very good ways to tell if your airbrush is spraying correctly. And by the way, a very good reason to not let your first spray be on the body. Spray on a piece of paper. I spray on the bottom of the spray booth. On the bottom, I cover the bottom of my spray booth with paper to protect the cardboard, which is protecting the metal. I know it seems kind of crazy, but I have a cardboard protecting the metal bottom of my spray booth, and rather than mess that cardboard up and have to replace it all the time, I just put pieces of 8.5 by 11 paper over the top of it. So I'll spray on the paper, and that's my first spray. And what I'm doing is I'm checking consistency, the spitting sound, or is it too watery? And I'm also, a lot of times if you put paint in the airbrush, it has a tendency to settle out, and you might get a little thinner at the bottom. So your first spray may be all thinner and not paint, and you don't want that on the body. Put that on the paper, and then get the paint flowing nice and say, okay, now I'm ready to hit the body with some paint, and then move on and hit the body with some paint. So I'm going to let this acclimate, and then we're going to spray it in the booth. that's going to wrap up video number 1 in the 3D printed 1972 Ford Maverick Grabber video series. I'm having a great time with this build. I hope that you're enjoying watching. I hope you go ahead and come back next week for video number 2, when we will move on and finish painting parts and start putting some of these 3D printed, beautiful 3D printed parts together. Go ahead and click that like and subscribe button, hit that bell, make sure you get notified when I post new content. Also, check me out on the other social media platforms, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, all under Angelo's Workbench. Come on back next week for video number 2. I look forward to seeing you then.